Hello hunters, my name is DarkHero, welcome back to my channel where we cover Monster Hunter content. I am so glad you are here, and today we are going to be covering the best longsword builds for Monster Hunter World. We are going to be testing and comparing different weapons, and we are going to be using Honey Hunter World for all of these comparisons and calculations. That being said, there will be occasions where there will be leeway for some subjectivity and for alternative methods when it comes to creating these builds. Also, do keep in mind that these are all endgame builds, and as such, they may require you to have some rare decorations or some rare weapons that you don't have already. With that being said, I would possibly want to make a series out of this, so let me know which weapon you would like me to cover in the future by leaving a comment down below. With that being said, let's talk about the edgelord's favorite weapon, the longsword. One very important thing to remember when talking about the longswords is that due to its very long reach, sometimes you will not be able to hit the monster's weak spot and you will end up losing a lot of sharpness along the way. That is why I believe that it is unrealistic to go in with only 10 units of wide sharpness. You should always try to go for 20 just to be safe. With that out of the way, the first build we're going to be covering is of a fan favorite weapon, and that is the Divine Slasher. The Divine Slasher has a very high base attack stat of 693, it has 0% affinity, and has a hidden element of 150 dragon. It also comes with a defense bonus of plus 20, which we don't care about too much, but it also comes with a level 2 decoration slot. For this build, we want to have the Nergigante Beta helmet and fill the rest with the Draken armor set. And for the charm, I chose to go for the Handicraft charm since it gives you Handicraft level 3, and again we are trying to reach 20 units of wide sharpness at the very least. Given that the weapon itself has a very high base attack stat and it has a hidden element, we want to of course slap an elementless jewel on top so we can take advantage of that and significantly increase our damage. With 3 Tenderizer Jewels and 1 Attack Jewel, we are able to reach 100% affinity, and of course we want to add a Critical Jewel to increase our damage multiplier whenever we deal critical hits from 1.25 to 1.4. The Handicraft Jewel is there because we want to increase our sharpness to 20 units of wide sharpness instead of only 10 like I said at the beginning. And since we had a spare decoration slot, I went for an extra attack jewel, and so we are able to reach attack boost level 5. For augmentations, since we don't need health regen because we're not using peak performance, and we don't need extra affinity since we already have 100% affinity, I chose to go for an attack boost augmentation to increase our damage even further. As long as you are hitting the monster's weak spots and as long as your stamina is full, which it should be at all times since you are using a longsword, and with the longsword you don't even need to evade since you have the foresight slash, so you don't even need to waste any stamina to avoid an incoming attack, you will be able to maintain that 100% affinity. This build doesn't require many rare decorations besides the Handicraft Jewel and the Critical Jewel, and with it you will be able to reach 493 effective raw damage, which is incredibly high and will do well against just about any monster. Also, I know many of you like to have health regen as your augmentation of choice, and if that is what you want to go with, then keep in mind that dropping the attack boost augmentation and choosing the health regen augmentation will make it so that your effective raw damage drops down from 493 to 482. That is a pretty considerable drop, but if you feel like you need health regen, then it might be worth it for you. However, this is not the strongest raw damage longsword build that you can have. What I'm showing you guys right now is in fact the strongest build that you can have in terms of raw damage. This is the Tarath Swordfire, and I actually had this weapon for a very long time, but I only started using it recently, and I've come to find out that it is actually very good. Shout out to Jinx and Tuna, the Monster Hunter math guys, for figuring this out and for creating this build because I was not aware of this, and once I have used it I can say for myself from personal experience that it is a lot of fun to use, and again it is the strongest raw damaging build. As you can see, it is very similar to the build that we were using earlier. It also uses all 4 pieces of the Draken set except for the helmet, in which case we use the Nergigante Beta helmet and we go for 2 attack decorations. The premise behind making this set is essentially the same, but since this weapon already comes with white sharpness, in fact it comes with 40 units of white sharpness, you don't need any handicraft of some sort, and so you can use an unscathed charm to get peak performance level 2, and you can add a flawless decoration to have peak performance level 3, which will significantly boost your raw damage. And as you can see, the Tarath Swordfire has a very high base attack stat, and it also comes with a hidden element, so we're going to be using an elementalist jewel to take advantage of that and boost the attack stat even further. And for augmentations, since we already are able to attain 100% affinity without the need for an affinity augmentation, we can slap a health regen augmentation to be able to maintain the damage bonus that we get from peak performance active at all times. Now do keep in mind that this build relies on peak performance. If you are going up against a monster like Valhazak, or a monster that is usually in areas where you take damage over time, such as the Great Gyros that is always in those pesky areas in the Rotten Vale where you take damage over time, then you won't be able to maintain peak performance active at all times, and if that happens, then this build is going to fall behind the Divine Slasher build that we showed earlier. But again, if you're going up against a monster that you know you are able to maintain peak performance against, then by all means you should go for this weapon, and considering that the Longsword has the Foresight Slash, a move that allows you to evade incoming monster attacks, then it makes it even easier to maintain peak performance. But if you have difficulty maintaining peak performance active at all times, then you should go for the Divine Slasher build we showed earlier if you're just trying to go for raw damage. Also, if you do not have a critical jewel, which I get it is a rare decoration, then you can try to swap the Nergigante Beta helmet for the Gala helmet and equipping 2 mighty jewels, and you will be able to get the same effective raw damage at the end. Now that we have gone over the raw damaging builds, let's talk about the elemental builds, and let's start with the Dragon Elemental build. For this build we are using the Kiar Sword DK, which comes with 677 base attack, has 15% affinity and 330 dragon element, and also comes with 1 level 1 decoration slot. Now the problem with this weapon is that it comes with blue sharpness, so we're going to have to find a way to push that to white sharpness, and that is why, as you can see here, we go for the Handicraft charm. With this we will be able to reach 20 units of white sharpness. Now for the armor pieces, we are using a full Draken set except for the chest piece, where we choose to go for the Empress Male Beta. This is because it gives us peak performance level 2, but also gives us 3 level 1 decoration slots. Then as you can see, we slot 3 Tenderizer jewels, 1 critical jewel, 3 expert jewels, 2 attack boost jewels, and 1 flawless jewel. And with all of this we are able to reach 100% affinity. Critical boost is going to increase the damage we get from those critical hits, and of course peak performance is there to boost our damage even further, and we have the health regen augmentation on the weapon to make sure that we can keep our health full at all times to take advantage of peak performance as much as possible. This build is extremely powerful against monsters that are weak to dragon. Seriously, it will be a cakewalk to go up to those monsters, but what if you don't have the Kiar Sword DK, because after all it is a weapon that is locked behind RNG, or what if you are not able to maintain peak performance active? Well, in that case, we need to turn to the Devil Joe Longsword. The River Calamity Longsword comes with 759 base attack, has negative 25% affinity, and 210 dragon elements. Being a rarity 7 weapon, we can have not 1 but 2 augmentations, and in this case we're going to go for an affinity augmentation, since again the weapon does come with negative affinity and we are trying to reach 100% affinity. And for the second augmentation we have a lot more leeway. We could go for an attack increase, or you could go for health regen, but as you will see, you probably want to go for a damage augmentation, since this build doesn't revolve around peak performance. Again, we have the full Draken set except for the Nergigante helmet, and given that this weapon comes with blue sharpness, we need to add that Handicraft charm, which is going to give us 30 units of white sharpness. And again, if you do not have a critical jewel, you can just swap the Nergigante helmet for a Gala helmet and just add a mighty jewel to the spare slot, and you'll be able to get the same damage, the same efficiency. It will be exactly the same, just with a little less defense. As you can see, this build does actually have a higher effective raw damage than the previous build we have showcased. However, due to the difference in elemental damage, the previous build is actually going to be much more powerful against monsters that are weak to the dragon element. Do keep in mind that if you choose to swap the damage augmentation for a health regen augmentation, you are going to be dropping your effective raw damage from 484 down to 474, and that is quite a big drop, so it might not be worth it for you. Now for fire element, let's take a look at the Tarath Swordfire. It comes with 627 base attack, has 20% affinity and 390 fire element. As you can see, it already comes with white sharpness, so we don't have to worry about that, and that 20% affinity is going to be fantastic and it's going to give us the opportunity to improve our build. Once again, we have the full Draken set except for the Emperor's Mail Beta. Since we don't need to spend as many decorations on our affinity or our sharpness, we can just focus on increasing our elemental damage or our raw damage. That is why we have an attack charm to give us attack boost level 3, increasing the skill attack boost to level 6. And we also have space for 2 Blaze Jewels, and that is going to give us a very nice 449 effective raw damage and 63 effective elemental damage. And well, as you can see here, things don't really change a lot once we get to the other elements. As you can see, the Tarath Thunder does require you to have the Handicraft Charm, and the same applies for the Tarath Sword Water, but all in all, when it comes to these endgame builds for the Longsword, especially when you have the Tarath weapons, they all look very much the same, but in my opinion, if you can maintain peak performance, I would just go with the raw damaging build that we showcased earlier with the Tarath Swordfire and you'll be just fine. That is, unless you are going up against a monster that is weak to dragon. In that case you want to bring the Tarath Sword Decay, because that is going to completely destroy the monster you're fighting. And well, that pretty much wraps up all of the best longsword builds that we have in Monster Hunter World. Again, these are all based on statistics and calculations using the Honey Hunter World website. I will leave a link to it in the description below. It is a very useful resource when it comes to creating your builds. I always go over there and I always check if I can change something about my build, and whatever comes out with a better result, or whatever build is most efficient against a specific monsters, because this website actually allows you to input a specific attack of a specific weapon and see how that matches up against a specific monster. And even more than that, it allows you to select a specific part of said monster. So yeah, go check out Honey Hunter World, I will leave a link to it in the description below. And if you have any suggestions for other weapons you would like me to cover here on the channel, then leave them down below in the comment section. I'll be sure to read your thoughts there. And if you have enjoyed this video or find it helpful, then please leave it a like. It takes less than a second and it greatly helps me out. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and turn on channel notifications if you don't want to miss an ounce of Monster Hunter goodness. As always, a huge thank you goes out to my patrons for choosing to support me and helping me keep this channel alive. You guys are my heroes, especially Jeff Baxter for going Plus Ultra. If you would like to support me, then the link to my Patreon is down below in the description. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. My name is DarkHero, and happy hunting!